Back to Lagos, still on COVID-19. The World Health Organization says COVID-19 is closer to causing a pandemic, but outbreaks in countries can still be controlled through a combination of containment and mitigation measures. However, such measures don't seem to be going down well in Italy, where 6 inmates have died after riots broke out at 27 prisons over new restrictions aimed at controlling the spread of the virus. Italy now has the highest number of confirmed infections outside China, with the death toll now increasing to 463.
The coronavirus outbreaks in China and South Korea appear to be slowing as countries elsewhere in the world adopt drastic measures to try and stamp out the infection. Iran has temporarily released approximately 70,000 prisoners due to the coronavirus outbreak. The country has recorded 49 new fatalities from COVID-19, bringing the death toll to 237. In Italy, 6 inmates have been killed in a prison riot, and guards were taken hostage at another jail. As unrest spread in the prisons across the country over measures to contain the coronavirus, including restrictions on visits. Some 16 million people in Lombardy and other parts of the north are now under quarantine. More than 7,000 people in the country have been confirmed to have the virus. Saudi Arabia says it will impose a fine of up to 500,000 riyals on people who do not disclose their health-related information and travel details at entry points. In South Africa, 4 more people have tested positive for coronavirus. They were part of a group of 10 who traveled together to Italy and returned last week. This brings the number of infected people in the country to 7, while Egypt records Africa's first death from the coronavirus.
To legislative matters now. Some provisions of the Protection Against Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill, also known as the Social Media Bill, already covered by other existing laws. That's the position of the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, which is asking the Senate to redraft the bill to align with the existing laws. The Commission's stand was given by its Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Umar Dambata at a public hearing at the Senate. Our correspondent Terry Kumi reports that the bill was condemned by many participants.
This public hearing.
Surprisingly, some may say, the public hearing on the social media bill was very peaceful. This is in contrast to the outrage that greeted the bill when it was introduced in the Senate last year. Perhaps the message of the President of the Senate while declaring the hearing open was well received.
That we should not just be open-minded and dispassionate, but should be ready to hear the other side, no matter how strong we feel about our own position.
A great number of participants at the hearing opposed the bill, saying it seeks to infringe on human rights as enshrined in the Constitution.
This committee, the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, should entirely discountenance the bill. It is not salvageable.
This bill appears to be undefined and misleading as far as it relates to politics as opposed to dealing with internet falsehood.
In this instance,
but not everyone is against regulating the social media.
Fake news that targets the military have serious impact on us as an institution, our operations, and personnel welfare. We want to say that we welcome this bill for reasons of national security.
what doesn't happen, don't say it happened. And this is the problem we're having. I refuse to be bullied.
The Nigerian Communications Commission and the Nigeria Law Reform Commission do not take sides but are strongly against certain portions of the bill.
Some provisions of the bill are already covered in several existing legislations. For example, the Cybercrime Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Act of 2015, the bill has general drafting anomalies, such as referring to sections as clauses and making references to words that are alien to the Nigerian jurisprudence.
The bill has given enormous power to the Nigerian Law Enforcement Department, which has been defined in the bill to mean the Nigerian police force. There is a need to check the powers donated to this police force.
For most of the participants, the large number of dissenting voices at this hearing should possibly influence the recommendations of the committee when it presents its report before the Senate. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And COVID-19 is still causing a scare on global trading. Here's Teniola Shibawale with some business news.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. Oil prices plunged to multi-year lows today as tensions between Russia and Saudi Arabia escalate, sparking fears on the streets that an all-out price war is imminent. Benchmark Brent crude was down 24% at $34.36 per barrel, while U.S. crude futures plunged 24.5% to trade at $31.13 per barrel. The sell-off in crude began last week when OPEC failed to strike a deal with its allies led by Russia about oil production cuts. That in turn caused Saudi Arabia to slash its oil prices as it reportedly looks to ramp up production. Well, the central bank is calling on African leaders to come up with policies that will address issues of hunger and poor nutrition on the continent. At a brainstorming session in Abuja, the regulator, in collaboration with some government agencies, canvasses a single-digit interest loan to farmers as a major panacea for food security.
The 2019 Global Report on Food Crisis shows that Africa remains disproportionately affected by food insecurity, with more than half of the global 113 million acutely food insecure people living in 33 countries in Africa. The need is for governments to develop innovative policies to unlock the wealth in agriculture, which has a market size worth $1 trillion by 2030.
Agriculture covers the majority of economic activity, covers the rural setting. It's very important in terms of wealth creation, economic activity, employment, and now we are even linking it to nutrition and welfare outcomes.
While the agricultural sector no doubt is facing challenges of funding, mechanization and land ownership, targeted policies to revive the sector remains key. This has become critical, just as the Food and Agricultural Organization projects that Africa could add an additional 38 million hungry people to the world's number of persons who go to bed hungry by 2050 due to climate change.
The need is for government to develop innovative policies to unlock the wealth in agriculture, which market size could be worth $1 trillion by 2030, according to the African Development Bank. The role of research as a critical backstop for policy in this respect cannot be overstated. And so it is heartwarming that today's event brings together policymakers and researchers from across the continent, not only to review available evidence, but also to set an agenda for future action.
There is no way that you can improve substantially agricultural production in our own country without mechanization. And how do you go about this mechanization? In this country, we have about 7,000 functional tractors. 7,000. That is just about 7 tractors per 100 square kilometers.
With sound policies targeted at farmers, Africa may get it right in the years ahead. But until then, the people of the continent still grapple with poor nutrition and low production.
Well, ahead of the National Sports Festival scheduled for March the 20th this year, the host government, Edo State, is wooing the support of the private sector via the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The governor, Godwin Obaseki, who was at the local bourse today, appealed to traders to join efforts with the state in a bid to pave way for investments in sports. Well, let's check in on figures from the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The local stock market fell by 2.4% today, the largest decline since September 2019, as investors reacted to the free fall in crude oil prices and the continued spread of the coronavirus. Here's Layo Adegoke with the details.
Thank you for joining us on the Stock Market Report. A blend of exogenous shocks have sent the markets into a frenzy on what may only be described as a Black Monday, as oil prices plunged more than 26% and Nigeria confirmed its second coronavirus case. The local stock market shed 2.41%, entering new lows of 25,647.54 points. Sell-offs were recorded across all the 5 major sectors we track, with the banking counter taking the heaviest hit by 8.95%. Next in the trail of losses is consumer goods and insurance. Shares of Zenith Bank were the most traded for the day, accounting for about 50% of total deals traded. A total turnover of 185.64 million shares worth 1.82 billion naira changed hands in 2,690 deals. GPLC was the sole gainer for the day by 7.14%, while Access Bank was top on the losers list. And that's it on the Stock Market Report. I'm Layo Adegoke. It's back to you, Teniola.
Well, global markets also plunged today as investors brace for the spread of the coronavirus and oil prices fall after the collapse of OPEC talks. Let's take a look at the closing figures. And that's business news tonight. It's back to you, Millicent.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10. Nigeria Football Federation says no league matches will hold henceforth without full complement of medical equipment and personnel following death of Nassau United defender Chineme Martins. That's on Sports News. Please stay with us.